All right, good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, August 25th, 7:35 p.m. We are coming from the Twinsburg Government Center. I'm going to call the regular council meeting to session. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
I'm here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Ms. McFerrin?
Here.
All right, please rise and join Mrs. Stoffer in the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of the community. Fill us with your grace as we make decisions that affect all of our residents and businesses and our dedicated city employees. Bless those away from us serving to protect our country. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up is approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting on July 14th and the special council meeting on July 28th, 2020. Everybody have an opportunity to review them. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Make a motion that the minutes are accepted as submitted.
All right, Mr. Fury makes a motion. May I have a second, please? Mrs. Walker seconds. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes. All right, so the minutes from the regular council meeting on July 14th, 2020 and the special council meeting on July 28th are approved as submitted, 7-0. Next up on our agenda this evening, we have awards and presentations. We have swearing in of 3 fire lieutenants. We actually did this earlier this evening. I don't know if Mayor, if you want to say a couple words.
No, we ended up moving it over to the Fire Station 1. This is a big event for the city of Twinsburg. And I don't know if we've ever sworn in 3 lieutenants at one time, but we've been working really hard over the last 4 or 5 years, along with the fire department. Been through some ups and downs, but we're definitely moving in the right direction there. So I'm excited. We had Joe D'Ambrosia, Chris Sorm, and Brian Laughlin. Just been great firefighter paramedics for the city. They're going to be great leaders in that department. It was an exciting time. We expected and had probably 75 to 100 people there, so we knew we couldn't fit them in here, so we ended up doing it at Fire Station 1, and they had a nice setup over there. But I just want to thank everybody that did come out, and I know that their families are excited and department's excited to have them there.
Thanks, Mayor. Before we move forward, I want to make a couple comments regarding a pending issue that's been brought before council. We serve an important role in this community, and there are times that we have difficult decisions that they have significant impact on our residents. It's very rare that we make a decision where we have unanimous support of the community. These issues can become very emotional. They may appear to be personal with the way we speak. As elected officials, we need to conduct ourselves professionally and with respect to our constituents, whether or not we agree with them. With that being said, I want to let Mrs. Clark know, I have heard your concerns with the way Mr. Fury addressed you in the July 14th meeting. I want to let you know that I'm committed to work with Mrs. Stoffer on proposed language to modify our council rules, specifically section 111.12, the Code of Conduct. I anticipate the changes will include the use of residents' personal information, whether it's public or private, situations that would prohibit the use of that particular type of information, and how we can use it. So hopefully Mrs. Stoffer and I will be in a position to present these changes to council prior to our next meeting. So thank you, I appreciate it.
Mr. Bell, can I have the floor?
Mr. Fury.
Mrs. Clark, I would personally like to apologize to you. I used that information, which was public, not to embarrass you, but to make a point of what the amount of the tax was. It was not my intent to embarrass you or cause you embarrassment, so I apologize. Thank you.
All right. Next up is audience participation.
First, we have Karen Clinton.
name is Karen Clinton, Glenwood Drive, longtime resident of the city of Twinsburg. I'm here tonight on behalf of active citizens of Twinsburg, and I want to talk to you about the bridge that is on Glenwood Drive, across from the bike trail in the city park. This is a special bridge. This bridge has been known for many years, and I've had many conversations with the former naturalist who unfortunately exited the city of Twinsburg about the bridge and the creatures that inhabit it. One of the things that inhabit it are very protected endangered bats. I don't know if you remember, Bill, but this is an important bridge, and these are federally protected bats. And unfortunately, the bats are now being harassed. It's a maternity ward. They are there from May through October. I was happy to say I seen a couple of the moms come out with their babies. So they're endangered. You are required, this isn't, I'm not asking, I'm telling you that you are required to get with the county, maybe the railroad, all of the above, collectively get together and find out what you're going to do to make this bridge more inhabitable, less dangerous, and especially more importantly, to protect these bats. There are federal laws. Active Citizens of Twinsburg has been in contact with the Department of the Interior, federal, which governs the actual Endangered Species Act of 1973. It was updated, but nevertheless, it's still very important. Clearly states on their Endangered Species Act penalty schedule that they can't even be harassed, okay? Punishable by a $50,000 fine and a year in federal prison. So I'm telling you, something needs to be done with this bridge. They did a study. You can contact the people with the Summit County parks. They did a study. They have been known to have these endangered bats in our area, in our caves, and in the maternity ward. They actually camped out a couple of nights underneath that bridge. So it's your responsibility to take care of this bridge and preserve it for these bats. There's tons of information you can Google. I could provide it, but you're not going to take my word for it. So you can go ahead and Google it and see that what the violation penalties are. So I'm asking you to make sure that that environment is provided. Like I said, I talked to Stanley numerous times about it. He was well aware of it, and also well aware that we have Indiana bats and long-eared bats, and they do visit that maternity ward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clinton. Mr. Maestros, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with the Endangered Species Act, and I'm not suggesting that you should be either. But do you know off the top of your head, does our responsibility towards, in this case, the bats, does that supersede our responsibility for a safe road, a safe bridge?
Well, we'll have to look into
Okay.
it. I mean,
I don't know
I
the
haven't
answer to
heard
that
this
question.
issue from Mrs. Clinton yet,
So
so
we-
we'll
we
have
We'd
to look
also
at
have to
it.
get the county involved because.
So we
it's
have
actually
been
not
in
a
touch
city.
with the county. This is a county-funded bridge. We sent letters. This is probably, I don't know, a year or two ago. The response was, and I can read it as a quote, this was part of the email, "At this time, the Glenwood Bridge does not rank as a priority for major work within the next 5 years relative to the total 281 bridges currently on Summit County's bridge inventory. Unfortunately, we currently have bridges of higher priority for the available funding in fiscal year 2024 provided by the Ohio Bridge Partnership Program. We are, however, anticipating the need to complete major rehabilitation or possibly total replacement of this bridge within the next 6 to 10 years. So we've made them aware of it. This is something that's on their radar. I don't know where things stand. This was prior to COVID, so in terms of replacement of this bridge, but we've continued to monitor it. Their projected cost is between 1.5 and 2.75 million for this bridge. So, so we have been in contact. We have received correspondence from them, and
That's from the
we'll
county?
continue from the county, correct?
Okay.
fines that were brought up by Mr. Clinton, would that then go to me because it's a county bridge?
I can't speak to the fines or how you monitor the maternity habits of a bat. So I can't speak to that.
Okay. Shannon?
Next, we have Brian Steele.
Yeah, next one. I'll grab these. My name's Brian Steele. I live at 8684 Gettysburg Drive. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'd like to have Mrs. Collins distribute to you guys a copy of the letter that I'm going to be referring to in my presentation, if that's okay. I think I have enough. I'm here to talk to you about a letter that was recently shared with Twinsburg residents on Facebook. This letter is from Lisa King, the Executive Director of the Summit Metro Park System. I will not read the letter, but I will discuss what I think are the main points of interest to Twinsburg residents and Twinsburg homeowners in particular. The city of Twinsburg is not currently in the Summit Metro Park taxing district. This is from an agreement made between the city of Twinsburg and the Summit Metro Parks when Twinsburg contributed land to Liberty Park. Summit Metro Parks is now starting the process to annex the city of Twinsburg into their taxing district. If the Metro Parks is successful in its efforts to annex Twinsburg, the following will happen. Using Lisa King's figures, there will be a property tax increase of $61.64 per year per $100,000 of home value. And of course, if the resident's home is greater than $100,000, it will be more than $61.64. No, it's $61.64. This increase will begin on 1/1/2021, the day after Twinsburg residents stop paying $40.11 per year for the bond used to purchase Liberty Park. Reading this letter now, after Council passed the 4.9 property tax increase, leads me to ask the following questions. Who in the city knew about the Metro Parks making this effort, and when did they know it? Was Council made aware of this effort before you voted on the 4.9 mil property tax increase? If so, who told you about this? If not, why wasn't Council told? When were the city residents and homeowners going to be told about this Metro Parks effort by the city of Twinsburg? There have been several statements made on social media that the 4.9 mil property tax increase recently passed by Council would in fact be only a net 3.6 mil increase due to the Liberty Park purchase bond ending on 12/31/2020. If the 4.9 mil is imposed and the Metro Parks 2 mil is passed, Twinsburg homeowners will realize a 6.9 mil property tax increase. Twinsburg homeowners should remember the Metro Parks 2 mil property tax, if put in place, will not end like the Liberty Park purchase bond, but will be with us forever. And Greg, it is the $61.40 because before they passed their levy back in April, it was, I don't have a copy of that, it was $41.67, I think.
Okay.
And then
You're right. I mean, it says 41.64 and then the plus 20. You're
Right.
I'm sorry.
So it is
You're right.
thank you for your time. And now I see that the Akron Zoo is here saying that they're gonna reach in our pockets for more money too.
Mr. Steele, or Mr. Bellin, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Address Mr. Steele.
Certainly.
We actually discussed this tonight at the Finance Committee meeting, and the city was notified on August 14th by Summit County Metro Parks that they're gathering resident signatures to annex the city into Summit County Metro Parks levy district. The Chief of Finance, Dale Fobian, said any levy impact would not occur until the 2022 collection year, should the annexation be successful. And yes, you're correct, sir, it would be a 2 mil levy. So just to give you some dates to answer to your questions there.
Okay, well then,
The-
obviously, that gentleman's timing is not the same as Lisa King, the executive director's.
I'm
because
just
she
sharing the
stated,
information I was given.
Lisa King's letter says 1/1/2021.
Understood,
Yeah.
sir.
Lisa King reached out to the city, communicated on August 14th. So that was the first time we'd been aware of this potential annexation. So since then and now, I know Sarah's been in touch with Metro Parks, looking at procedural process, how that works. And that was discussed at finance meeting tonight.
Okay. My last question, Mayor,
Mhm.
is this. I know they are gathering signatures. I'm assuming gathering signatures means they're going to be putting this on the ballot?
This is our understanding, will not go on a ballot, so it's a different process with Metro Parks. So they go in front of a judge, and they'll set it for, well, let's just call a hearing, which will allow Twinsburg residents to come in and support or oppose the annexation. But it's not a typical ballot-driven process that they have to go through. And we're still finding out more information. So as we get more, we'll definitely share it with the residents.
Okay, so once again, the residents of the city of Twinsburg won't get to vote on their property taxes going up.
When you show up to the meeting.
Yeah, it's, again, we're still trying to figure out the process, but that's my understanding. It will not go on a ballot.
That's great. That's great.
Typical. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Brian.
We'll see about that.
Next, we have Sue Clark.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Sue Clark, 9845 Crestwood Drive. Greg, I want to thank you for touching on it tonight because I was coming up here to touch on it as well. I'm appreciative that you guys are writing something. However, I think from a resident's perspective, we need to write something that covers the residents, just not council. So I hope that you guys are looking into that as you look over the situation. Because it was very hurtful to myself, the residents of Glenwood Acres. My mom's neighbor was very upset about it for 2 days. I mean, we have to look at how we approach that. We have to be respectful to you guys, and the same has to come across to residents, and it's not always been that way since I've been coming the last 2 years. Thank you too, Sam, for staying after the last meeting. I have not seen you to personally thank you, but I wanted to do that to you and Dave as well. And then, so as soon as we get through that, if I could be included in that, I'd like to help you guys, because from a resident's point of view, it's different than a council's point of view. So if we could maybe include me, there are some things that I'd like to see differently for residents. Like sometimes we have questions, and instead of holding them up to Mayor Yates on the back of a card, maybe at the end of the meetings, you guys consider when there's miscellaneous business, saying, hey, do you guys have questions out there? Because we make time to come to, and those things are important. And just to reiterate, because we're all hearing about the park thing tonight, and I don't know if you guys know the answer to this, but with the park, will they be taking care of the maintenance on the park, or is that something that we would still be responsible for the ball fields, or if we get annexed back in, is that something the Metro Parks does for us?
So there's about 3,000 acres. We have the active portion that we take care of that is our park that we do what we want. The better term of non-active portion, that they do maintain that. So they built the, of course, nature center, they patrol it, they take care of the trails, they do all the work on the bulk of the land there. So the only thing that we're responsible for to maintain is the active part of our ball fields and those kind of things that our residents use.
Okay. And then do you
Yeah.
guys, I know this is all new to you, but is somebody going to go and talk to this judge with the COVID and the 4.9 and the zoo and them and next year the schools. I mean, are you guys going to get together maybe over the next couple weeks as a council and say, hey, you know, because that's in a meeting, I plan on attending the park meeting and talk to the judge. I mean, we can't, everybody's feeling the effects of COVID. We've been talking about it for months, everybody.
Yeah.
So now that we're going to get annexed into something that, like Brian said, nobody can vote on again, it's important that you guys do a good job of communicating that so the residents can support you if that's what we choose to do. So thank you guys for your time tonight, and I'll look forward to hearing from you, Greg.
Next, we have Bruce Baldwin.
Good evening, Counsel. Bruce R. Baldwin, 3310 Cannon Road, Twinsburg. I have been wondering for quite a while about all the vacant buildings in town. I think it looks very bad for a company or a family looking for a place to move. And one of the worst is the Twinsburg Marriott down here at 9392 on Route 14. Buildings right in the center of town, 4 stores at Creekside, 1 behind PNC Bank, Bob Evans, Haddon Road, Wilcox Drive, Donato's, Damon's. So I counted 13 of them, which are probably, that's about as far as I can count. I went to school here, so. The property on Route 82 between McDonald's and Church Street. So what has happened to these, you tore the houses down. It was 2 tax-paying houses, now there's nothing there. What is going on? I asked this before, and we talked about my signs, we had that little problem. Well, the other 6 are still there after 2 months. And as a police dispatcher told me, the city of Twinsburg does not discriminate, but it seems like a funny thing. I've never really got an answer over it, so I don't know, it's one of those things I guess I hope to live long enough to, I don't know. But anyway, thank you for your time and take care and be safe. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bruce.
Baldwin.
Next, we have Michael Turrell.
Mr. Baldwin's always a tough act to follow. Mike Turrell, 9930 Forest Lake Drive, Twinsburg, Ohio. We would like to thank over 1,200 Twinsburg residents who signed their petitions to have Ordinance 47-2020 and Charter Item 601 brought to the ballot for a vote by the electorate. Our right to referendum petition and initiative petition have been used in the city of Twinsburg for the electors to have their voices heard. This is truly a historic moment. This is truly democracy in action. I would like to thank the many more residents who reached out to us, the residents who were able to make it out to one of our signature opportunities, but still wanted to sign and invited us into their homes. I want to thank the numerous HOAs that reached out to us, invited us into their cul-de-sacs, their neighborhoods, their sidewalks, their garages, providing us with locations and opportunities for our signature drive. I would like to thank the far many more that contacted us and continue to contact us that missed a chance to sign. Don't worry, your voice was heard and carried by others. You will have your chance to have your voice heard at the ballot. Lastly, I would be neglectful to not express our appreciation for our members of council who supported us. Thank you, Ms. Daisy Walker. Thank you, Mrs. Maureen Stauffer, and thank you to Mr. Sam Scafidi. Thank you for giving us reason to believe that this cause was just and true. Thank you for giving us a banner to carry in the streets, for giving us the message, we can do better than this. We know that you heard us, and we heard you, and now the city can have her voice heard. Thank you very much. We will be providing a written transcript of this statement with a request that the clerk of council enter it into tonight's council meeting minutes verbatim. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Next, we have Sheila Williams.
I just want everybody to know, I'm moving in with the bats underneath the bridge. If things continue the way they're going in Twinsburg, we'll all be underneath the bridge. On a lighter note, I'm going to talk about a couple of things. The health department, we've got all kind of stuff going on with this COVID and whatever. I'm going to deal with the schools first. Twinsburg was on the news this evening. We're moving forward. We're opening up. I know a lot of people are really antsy about that, but I keep telling people that we have a whole generation of children that need interaction. And I'm kind of excited. I don't have any children in the school, but I would think all the little second graders are talking about being at the high school. That's like a big deal. So they're kind of excited in anticipation of it. A couple of the teachers, they were talking about it's a little concerning and things like that. But I keep reminding people as a health department person and a community person, it's not just teachers and children that are impacted by this COVID. The people that cook the food, if there's no school open, they don't have a job. The people that clean the buildings, same thing. Bus drivers. It's a circle. And when you look at all communities, probably 40% of the people that work in school systems live in the communities because they help to pass the levies. They either work for the city or they work for the school system. A lot of people may not realize that. But coming from an educational background, I can tell you that schools do that for a reason when you're trying to get a levy passed and different things like that. There are concerns, but to Ms. Stauffer, I wish you the very best of a school year. I think for many of these kids, they're already socially isolated with computers and things like that. And we're going to have a generation of children with some issues if we do not encourage some socialization. My children always played outside. My house always had 5 or 6 kids. It was the neighborhood place. I think your house has become that now, Mr. Bello. And it's important because it teaches kids conflicts. It teaches kids how to get along with each other. You can help each other. You can encourage each other. So I wish for you all a very good school year. I know the health department has been very impressed with Twinsburg schools and Kathy Powers and the board and what they've been doing. So please make sure you pass that on. I've been told if she could do a workshop, they would encourage her to come in and do one for some of the other school systems. So I'm gonna go to the other side of the health department. We're dealing with some issues that affect everyone in this room, from voting. The governor has said we're not gonna require a mask. We have people in the community saying that the health department should require that. We've got a lot of debate going on with that. I keep talking about we are not the mask patrol. And I stand on that. Dealing with the police chiefs, they've said that they don't want to be the enforcers. I understand that. We did get some grant money where the sheriff's department will come in and intervene for us if there's some problems. So I'm making you all aware of that. We're working on language that will be a bigger fine to companies. And I tell people, if you're at Drug Mart and Bill doesn't say have a mask on, don't go over to Bill and tell him, put your mask on. That's not your place. You can go to the manager and say, there are people in the store that don't have a mask on and I'm not comfortable. And then you make a choice. Either you stay in or you go out. But please don't call us at the health department. I'm gonna say that. Please don't call your police chief or your police department. There are other more important issues. And so we're dealing with some language on that now. We have a special meeting on Thursday. It is a mass meeting. And part of the language is we want to have a fine. We want to be in line with the county. City of Akron has put some things in place. And then we're dealing with the state. And I keep saying the state supersedes everything. So as we're looking at this, our language is going to be in partnership with what DeWine is asking of people. So it may not be a lot of happy campers behind this, but we all have to make choices and good choices. I know one of the things we're looking at is controlling parties. Young folks have showed us they're going to party regardless. And that's an issue at times. So we're looking at that with some of the colleges as the colleges are opening up. And I'm not sure how it's all going to come out, but we did receive care money. So I'm going to go through that briefly so you all can continue on. We're doing a couple of things with our care money. We're going to have a walk-up service window where you can get birth certificates and different things. We didn't realize kiosks were so popular. Nobody wants to come in and interact with us, which I understand. So we're putting in 2 new kiosks where you can do everything, then go to the window, get everything you need, be about your business. There's going to be a driveway check you for COVID, where you come in one way, You check you, and you go right out an exit area. At the back of the health department, we open up to a street. So we're going to open that gate up back there, maybe put a little shed since we have this money. And there'll be like clinic hours, so you can drive up, have your test, and then we'll get back to you. We've called some people back, but as everyone is talking about, COVID is affecting everyone, and we're no different. What we're trying to do is cross-train. And with our care money, we're able to supplement some of this. But I vote that we all figure out how we can go live where the bats are mating, because taxes are going up everywhere. Everybody wants a little piece of the pie, and I'm on a fixed income. So I won't be a happy camper as many of the people in the community are. But I wish for Twinsburg that we will band together, even in our disagreements, because when you look at some of these other communities, they want to be like us. What was that thing, I want to be like Mike years ago? And I must say that about Twinsburg. I don't always agree with all the stuff, but I know that there are a lot of communities that want to be like us, because it is a solid community with problems, but we all know the problems. And I may fight with you, but I'm going to always fight for you too. I'm not going to let outsiders. We just talk about you among ourselves. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you.
That's all we have this evening.
All right. Mr. Scafidi, yes.
I just want to speak to Mrs. Clark, that, I had planned to talk about that tonight, bring it up, and I'm glad that you did. I want to commend you for listening to the remarks of Mr. Bellin, and also listening to the apology from Mr. Fury. I commend him as well for doing the same. I think that that's the beginning, and that's where it needs to start, right there. And so, again, thank you for. It's commendable that you were able to come up here and be so gracious about it, and I do appreciate that. There's one little piece, though, that I want to bring up, and, that night, and I understand people get emotional, and I get fired up, and Mrs. Stauffer was on the other end of, our rant that evening as well. And I don't think it's fair, and I really want to make sure that this council doesn't get to that point where, because we decide to do something that we are empowered to do, which is we are elected by the voters here, we have a right to make motions, we have a right to make amendments, whether we all know about it, whether one person knows about it, or whether nobody knows about it. We have a right to do that. And I've seen it done time and time and time again. So for her to be chastised the way she was, I think was totally out of line. I had planned to call for a motion to have Mr. Fury apologize to everybody. But I'm going to leave that up to Mr. Fury and his conscience. I see that, it was commendable what you did, Bill, and I commend you for that. And that's going to be up to you and Maureen. That's between the two of you. But I do want to see these rules of council change. And we've got to all take part in it. We haven't done that in the past. We've changed it, and we've had to change it again and again, because everybody has to have a say-so in the rules of council, and that needs to be a part of it. Not only how council addresses the public, because we demand their respect, as Mrs. Clark said, but we've got to be respectful to one another, because we are going to be angry. And I'll tell you what, being in management all the years I have been, I get angry at staff members, but I certainly do not chastise anybody publicly or in front of anybody else. They are taken aside, and we have a discussion. Some are heated, some are not so heated, but we have that discussion. And if that discussion needs to be had, it needs to be done privately between the two of you. So again, I'm going to leave it up to your conscience, Bill. Thank you for doing what you did, Maureen.
Thank you.
I know that you were hurt by that. I know you were taken back by it, and I know Mrs. Clark was as well. So that's all I was going to say. I just appreciate everybody's comments tonight.
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. I do appreciate that, Sam. I think the problem I have is that came at me when there were also, Sam also spoke up. So I feel I was treated differently because I'm a woman, and I don't appreciate that. So that's something we're going to work on. We've made a
I would have
decision now.
made those same comments to whoever made a motion that had talked, who said they had talked to the majority of council, and 4 members were unaware of it. It was a most challenging piece of legislation in my career, most likely in Sam's, you know.
In all ways.
and so 11 years. And we have rules in council now that say that we are supposed to share all the documentation that's going back and forth. You had a written document. It was a very challenging thing. I don't know what the point was. I'm sorry you were offended, but I was absolutely offended as well that you would blindside me with a motion that you didn't think was going to be supported to fail to be able to vote first to split a tax that you weren't going to support because you said you would never vote for it anyway. It's in the verbatim from the meeting. So I have all the comments here. I could talk about that whole meeting event, but I'd like to move on.
I would
In the
too.
future, though, I would like to know beforehand, and I think that's one of the things we need to incorporate or reestablish in our rules.
I agree.
That when we have a piece of legislation that was pretty much signed off in May 18th and didn't get voted on until July 14th, that if there's a motion that already was supposedly had a second by another person, that it's brought to the whole of council. And I was especially disappointed that we ended a council caucus meeting almost 14 or 15 minutes early, and we sat here and did nothing when we could have had that discussion earlier.
Right.
All right?
So your speech was a little bit planned. So I don't.
Pardon me?
Your outrage, I believe, was planned, that you knew you had full knowledge of this. I didn't say it to you, but we had enough conversation
I
among
had
council
people
that you
tell
knew
me
might be.
that there might be a motion, but nobody knew what it was.
Well, then you could
Mr.
have
Barr,
approached
you
and
said
asked.
you spoke to Mr. Barr. I mean, we could go through this all right. And he said
We
you never
could.
talked to him. Talked to Mr. Bellin. He said he didn't know what the motion was. Talked to Mrs. McFerrin. She said she doesn't know what the motion was. So again, it was a very important piece of legislation, very controversial piece of legislation, and we could have handled it all differently. So thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, I need to just revisit this for a second. You're telling me that you asked all 3 of them and none of them had any knowledge of this?
I'm saying that Mr. Barr, you said in that meeting, you asked him outright, did I call you, Scott? He said no. I later asked Joanne if she had been given details of the motion. She told me she had not. I asked Mr. Bellin if he had details of a motion. He said he had not. So 4 members of council were unsure. 2 of them had not spoken to you at all regarding this issue. So that's my point, is that in the future, we should, if we have something that we want to bring forward, let's bring it forward to the group and discuss it and move it through that process.
Okay. So we will add these discussions to our council rules, to those discussions as well. Just in the interest of time, we've got a lot of things that we need to take care of this evening.
I just want to make something clear.
Okay.
I tell the truth. So I did not lie. I spoke to you guys.
Mr. Bellin,
I-
point of order, we're getting into sunshine law now.
Screaming from the audience.
We're not, no, we're speaking publicly here.
Yes, you are.
We're speaking publicly, and again, as I addressed Mrs. Clark earlier, we are going to address the rules of council, which again will be brought forward publicly in front of council and discussed. All right. Next up is council communications and reports. Ms. McFerrin.
Okay, well, the ARB met on July 16th, August 6th, and August 20th. The next meeting will be on September 3rd. On the 7/16 meeting, there were 6 cases. They were multiple location for Eastern Spring sign review was approved as submitted. 2834 Alling Road, a sunroom addition was approved as submitted. 8849 Maryville Drive, new single-family home was approved as noted. 10419 Ravenna Road, a sink house and containing sign review. The approval of the pillars was as submitted table, but they needed to come back to resubmit the sign. 9842 Chamberlain Road, a covered porch was approved. And 2031 Trailwood Drive, a home addition was approved as noted. On August 6th, There was an 8790 Maryville Drive, new construction, color revision, 8880 Maryville, new single-family dwelling, approved as noted. 1049 Ravenna Road, the St. Cosmos and Damian sign was approved as noted. 1554 Bridget Lane, new single-family home was approved as submitted. 3383 Cannon Road, attached garage was approved as noted. 2664 East Aurora Road, a garage expansion was approved as noted. There were 3 new single-family dwellings at 3081 Wyatt's Way, 3054 Wyatt's Way, and 3048 Wyatt's Way that were approved as noted. 2953 Darling Court, a new single-family dwelling was approved as submitted. And 2812 Hunter's Ridge, a new single-family dwelling was approved as noted. On 820, 8027 Darrow Road, Unit B, Summit Sound, sign review was approved as noted. 8252 Darrow Road, Faithful Companion sign review was approved as noted. 8886 Herrick Road, a detached garage was approved as noted. 9052 Cross Road, a detached garage was approved as noted. And 9478 Darrow Road, a front porch was approved as submitted. And again, the next meeting will be on September 3rd. My other committees have not met, but I did want to bring up something today that Governor DeWine reminded all of the Ohio citizens to complete the 2020 census. And the reason that's important, it determines how the $675 billion is distributed among states and Ohio's representation in Congress. And if you haven't done that yet, you can do so by going to www.2020census.gov, and there's also a number that you can call in, but it is important to our state and to us, so if you haven't, we appreciate you doing so. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
Good evening. My public safety meeting that was canceled. I did meet with the president of the chamber and we met here in council. It was an open meeting and she was looking for another venue to have the Chamber of Commerce meeting that can accommodate the people that she wanted. She also mentioned that they're going to send out information. They're having a golf outing in September. I don't have the date yet, but I'll probably have it at our next council meeting.
It's full, so it's a full outing. They've sold it out.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. She hasn't contacted
Right.
me since we had the meeting, so that's good to know. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Mr. Scafidi.
Thank you. First, the planning commission met on Monday, August 17th. There's a report here. They had 3 items that night. They had a final site plan for the Liberty Road modifications. It seems that the Pulte Group purchased, and I'm going to read this because it's quite long, somewhat long. The Pulte Group purchased 38 acres in Twinsburg Township. The property borders Summit and Cuyahoga County, plus multiple cities, making it a unique site. There will be 2 phases of it. The first phase will be 31 units. They have traffic study done, and that's been completed. It was detected that there was a line of sight issue from where the development will come out onto Liberty Road. And for those that don't know, this is on Liberty Road, just between Reminderville's on one side. When you go through the Liberty Road roundabout, you go to the left, you go around that curve by Willowbrook. There's their entrance there, and then you keep going, and then there's that curve. There's the property there. Pulte has a sign.
Towards Solon.
Pardon me?
Towards Solon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're going
It's around the Solon
Yes,
border.
between Solon.
East side of the
It's in
road.
the township between Reminderville and Solon, and we're across the street.
Gotcha.
So they explained that the north and southbound lanes are in relation to the proposed development entrance of the car within the low height. They will be putting a left-hand turn lane in going southbound on Liberty Road, so you can get into this new development. What it really affects the city of Twinsburg is on our side, there'll be, I believe it was about 5 feet that we're going to be extending or widening the road in that section, in that area. So there was a lengthy discussion from the planning commission. At the end of the evening, the planning commission recommended the city council to approve the site improvement plan with one condition, and that was the final approval by the City of Twinsburg Engineering Department. So that was that one. So that was recommended for the City Council. The second one was a final site plan for New Adventures Daycare. This is up on Darrow Road on 91. At the last meeting, they were here, I believe, on June 1st, the Planning Commission. At the last meeting, they requested an architectural features and lighting plan, and they did come with that. They added a 4-foot section of landscape to the east and south of the site. Also, there's sidewalks being planned too. They requested a sidewalk, so there will be some sidewalk area on Darrow Road, even though connected nowhere. We're thinking in the future that it might be developed and the sidewalk would be. The final site plan was approved with conditions that they wanted approval of 8.5-foot front yard setback. Plan approval, condition approval of an 8.5-foot front yard setback, variance for the covered entrance structure, final approval from the stormwater pollution prevention plan by Summit County Soil and Water, and final approval of the site lighting plan by the city planner. Also adding a 4-foot concrete sidewalk along the property street frontage of Summit Commerce Park and Darrow Road. This was approved by the board of the planning board of 5, so unanimous. The last item that was on the agenda was the property at East Aurora Road and Chamberlain Road, the southwest corner. They were all here at the last time. Rob Benjamin was here with his attorney, and they had a planner here as well. And they're trying to rezone that corner. They were all there again. They gave that. We sent that back to the planning commission. They gave their same presentation to them that they gave to us. There was again a lengthy discussion at the meeting. Some folks still had the same issues that they had the first time, but it was a little bit different this time. They did make a motion to recommend to council that the rezoning request from C2 community commercial to R5 is family. That motion was passed by a 3-2 vote by the planning commission. Just a footnote that the next day, one of the no votes did text me and said that he still feels that that's probably not the proper place for it, but he's all in favor of sending this to the ballot for the residents to vote on this zoning change or not. So that was a recommendation there. So at this time, I have 2 motions that I would like to make. One would be accepting the planning commission's recommendation for site plan for New Adventures Daycare.
I'll second.
A second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? All can. Go ahead.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Okay, and then the other motion is accepting the planning commission's recommendation for a site plan for the proposed turn lane on Liberty Road.
I'll second.
I just wanted to add something.
Okay. Pardon me?
Because when I talked to Lynn about that today, because one of the things I just want to share, because I didn't know who pays for all that, but and that you all know that, but Pulte's, the developer, would be paying for that change. So just thought I'd share that for you.
So, Mr. Scafidi, so then that's the one, the Pulte one towards Solon. And if I'm understanding correctly, so there are no homes that will be in the city of Twinsburg. Those are all in township. And the only change from today is a section that will be widened on the west side of Liberty Road, which will be in the city of Twinsburg.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well, they also, the trail path that goes through there, that's
Okay.
going to be located as well. They said that it's not going to be as close to the road as it is now. It's going to be located.
But that's on the township side,
That's
correct?
on the township
Okay,
side.
perfect. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Okay, finally, I have the Capital Improvements Board had their first meeting tonight, And it was basically an organizational meeting. They selected their chairman and so on. And then Finance Director Sarah Lucci-Cross went through the 2021 capital equipment request and the process with them. She basically went through page by page what she had to present to them. And at the next meeting on September 1st, the department heads will start to come and explain their request to the board and answer any questions that they have. And that was the end of that meeting. And that's all I have. Parks and Rec, which was scheduled for this Thursday, has been canceled, so there will be no park and recreation. And that's it.
All right.
All I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Barr.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Bell. The Finance Committee met this evening at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. And Finance Director provides with quite a bit of information, so we'll just kind of give you a high-level overview of this. 2020 income tax collections remain down even after the extended filing deadline, primarily due to COVID. Collections through August 2020 are down 9.88%, which is roughly $1.64 million. We have gotten notices to the city through the Warren program for reductions in force and layoffs in companies that are letting folks go here in Twinsburg work locations. We are working on a multi-year recovery plan for this because I think that we all know we're going to be in this for a little longer than we think. We do have some COVID-19 relief funds from Summit County. We currently put the language in place at our last meeting, and Ms. Butchie-Gross is hoping to have an appropriation amendment brought to our next council meeting for us to take some of the payroll relief funding available through Summit County to help offset the costs of police officers, firefighters, dispatchers during these times. So we'll be providing more information on that. We have some COVID-19 relief funds available from State House Bill 481. Current projects right now, again, using this CARES Act money include restroom upgrades, limiting common area contamination with touchless fixtures in the process. Working on a multi-agency computer-aided dispatch program allowing for backup dispatching options with Macedonia. We're going to be installing some temperature check kiosks at city buildings that'll be a touchless sort of iPad thermal imager type scan. And we're looking at trying to offset some payroll costs related to increased cleaning of the facilities. Like Mr. Scafidi stated, the Capital Improvements Board, we were given sort of a primer on that this evening. And he spoke about, Mr. Scafidi spoke about that. We are going to have some budget reductions and some appropriations forthcoming. We did not have Rock the Park concerts. We did have some downtime at the fitness center when the fitness center was closed, senior center, things like that. So there will be some adjustments to the budget forthcoming. And also we'll be speaking about some operating budget reductions as well. And Mr. Steele actually mentioned the Summit Metro Parks operating levy, which Ms. Butchie-Gross shared that information. I spoke with to Mr. Steele regarding that earlier. And that pretty much concluded the Finance Committee meeting. The next meeting of the Finance Committee is scheduled for September 22nd at 6 p.m. here in Council Chambers. None of my other committees have met at this time. That's all I have this evening, Mr. Mellon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mrs. Stoffer.
Well, my committees haven't met, but the Environmental Commission last met in February, but they did decide to go ahead and cancel the September 26th document shredding. They haven't rescheduled as of yet, and they've also decided to cancel the October cleanup day due to COVID.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Fury.
Thank you and good evening. The CIC met on August 3rd to discuss board vacancy that we had. The board chose to add 2 residents to the board. Doug Holtzman, who is an 8-year resident of Twinsburg and a commercial real estate agent, as well as David Post, who's been a longtime resident, been involved in many things throughout the city. So they have become members of the CIC. Our next meeting is September 14th at 4:30. You see some construction possibly at the entrances of Ethan's Green, Ethan's and 91, Glenwood by the golf course, Glenwood and Liberty and Post. Those are not city projects. They are new signs that are going to be brick with sandstone, where the Homeowners Association of Ethan's is spending close to $100,000 between landscaping, lighting, and new signs that should match the same type of sign, or same size of stones that are at the clubhouse. I want to thank, again, David Post, who's taken on this project. He's worked with the construction people, with the site design, and he's been working on this for a year. He's done an outstanding job, so I really want to thank him for his efforts there. The Board of Zoning Appeals has not met recently, and I did attend a finance meeting earlier this evening. I would like to congratulate Joe D'Ambrosia, Christopher Sorm, and especially Brian Laughlin. Brian Laughlin's a good friend of mine. His son played with my son in college, and I know the family very well, so I'm very, very happy that those three men were able to be promoted as lieutenants in our fire department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrer. I attended this evening's Finance Committee meeting, which Mr. Barr very eloquently went over. I also attended this evening's CIB meeting. None of my other committees have met. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So we are still dealing citywide with COVID-related issues. We continue to monitor. Directives coming down both from the county and the state. There's still phone calls that go on now every 2 weeks. A lot of it has been dealing with the COVID funds that have been funneled through the county. Ms. Butchergrass has been dealing a lot with that. We are watching some court cases that have been filed regarding working at home. Currently, there's a hold on trying to regulate those that are working at home and where they pay their income tax, but there's court cases that are currently pending that could change that in the future. So it could be a nightmare on how that gets regulated within each municipality. And we really don't know what to expect, whether that would be a benefit to Twinsburg or a detriment. But it is still very volatile out there. We're doing everything we can to talk with businesses and make sure that we can help those that are struggling, and work with those that you're going to see a lot of consolidations. You're going to see a lot of different things happening across the country with a lot of these different organizations, and Twinsburg will probably have their share of them. We're working through one right now. But as we get information that impacts our city, we'll do our best to get it out to the residents. But it's we're in this kind of weird holding pattern right now, just kind of working our way through life with masks and the retail business and everything going on. I do want to thank our businesses in Twinsburg. Everyone I go in seems to be doing a good job with the mask compliance. And I know other communities I go into, your percentages could vary all over the place, whether people are wearing masks and whether they're going to enforce it. But I think our Twinsburg businesses have stepped up and done a great job with it. So I want to thank them. And again, we had a great ceremony earlier, but for Joe D'Ambrosia, Chris Sorm, and Brian Laughlin, this is a great promotion. We're excited about the new leadership with our fire department, and I know they're going to do great things for years to come for the city. And that's all I have, and I have a couple of reports. Larry, you want to start?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about two different things going on right now in the Community Planning and Development Department. First of all, we've initiated an update of the comprehensive plan. We are looking to establish a comprehensive plan committee. We're anticipating a committee of about 20 people, try to get a good cross-section of interest from across the community. He sent out an email earlier, just kind of giving everybody a heads up and show you the draft membership composition of what we hope to be a large comprehensive plan committee of about 20 people. We're suggesting representation from the mayor through some of the administration, the city engineer, council reps, ward representatives from the community, the Twinsburg Historical Society, number of commissions, and the Architecture Review Board, Metro Parks, and significant property owners, both from the industrial and commercial side. So you'll be hearing more about this as we get some information out to everybody, encouraging people to express interest if they're interested in participating in the committee. From this committee, we'll establish some subcommittees. We'll get involved in specific elements of the comprehensive plan update. We anticipate that the meetings by the larger committee would be Zoom meetings because of the current pandemic, and that some of the subcommittee meetings could be in-person meetings. We hope to have a committee formed by October so we can get started with distributing some of the basic data. And we hope to concentrate primarily on sustainability issues. Previously we looked at the downtown area, central area redevelopment. We're going to be looking at sustainability issues, which cover a whole broad spectrum of ways for the city to be more efficient, energy conscious, and have less of an impact on the environment with the things we do and how we operate. So if you could give some consideration to recommending a couple of members of the council to serve on the committee, that would be great. And we'll continue to seek interest from others and get the committee formed. So that's one thing. That's the Comprehensive Plan Committee. We are also updating our software in the building, planning, and engineering departments. The Franklin system that we've been using for many years is no longer, in essence, it's not being supported. They've changed hands. It's changing, and besides that, it was never really e-commerce friendly. And this will give us, the software we've chosen will give us the ability to have all our applications online, for individuals to make applications online, for us to receive payments online. People may not even have to come in to get a project started or to get a permit. It will have plan review, electronic plan review capability. And this is going to be absolutely required for us because with the loss of personnel in the department, it's hard for us to get the work done. And this will enable us to get the work done more efficiently, with fewer people, with better communication and more accountability. So we've started, we actually had our first element of the transition today. Again, this will take us until about October. We hope to be up and operating and online by October 5th. So the next couple of months we'll be very busy in the department transferring data from the old system to the new system, creating the forms we need, and modifying the processes to fit software and the software to fit our processes.
What's the name of the new software?
MyGov is the one we've chosen. We actually reviewed half a dozen different contemporary building permitting software programs, received cost estimates, and then made a selection. Yep. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Sarah?
Good evening, Council. I was going through my report tonight, and I think between Mr. Barr and Mayor you guys covered it all. The only thing I
Right.
have left is that the July financials are available online.
All right.
So.
I did think about that, but
Yeah.
you're here, so I brought you up.
No, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Sarah.
And that's all we have.
All right. All right. Next up then is legislation. We have 6 pieces this evening. First up is Resolution 63, 2020.
A resolution acknowledging council's receipt and review of the monthly financial statements submitted by the Finance Department for April, May, and June 2020.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 63, 2020. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Any discussion?
This is an annual, annual state or annual?
Regular,
I'm
quarterly.
sorry, quarterly, and it, emergency because it needs to be filed before Friday, September 4th.
I don't think this one's on emergency.
Oh, it's not on emergency?
No.
No.
Well, we're on ordinance, what, 60?
63.
Oh, I apologize. Okay,
Resolution.
That's okay. Anything else?
gotcha. No,
Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Resolution 63, 2020 passes 7-0. Next up is Ordinance 64, 2020.
An ordinance requesting the fiscal officer of Summit County, Ohio to accept certification of delinquent sanitary sewer rentals and water fund maintenance charges as compiled and placed on record in the office of the Twinsburg Finance Director and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put Ordinance 64, 2020 on its third and final reading. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Any discussion?
This is the one I was talking
Okay.
about.
All right.
It's annual and it needs to be filed before September 4th.
Gotcha. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
All right, the emergency clause passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to put, or to adopt Ordinance 64, 2020 as an emergency. May I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ordinance 64, 2020 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next up is Resolution 65, 2020. I believe we're going to pass over this one this evening.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Next up is Ordinance 66, 2020.
An ordinance authorizing the lease of 2 vehicles through Kempthorne Incorporated for the use by police department and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put Ordinance 66, 2020 on its third and final reading and declare an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Stoffer seconds. Any discussion?
This is, so every 2 years, we lease new vehicles for our detective bureau. So this is 2 used vehicles, we'll keep for 2 years. Total is a little over $16,000 for the 2 years. So, but we try to rotate those vehicles in and out for DB.
Okay. Anything else? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
All right, the emergency clause passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 66, 2020 as an emergency. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. McFerrin seconds. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ordinance 66, 2020 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next up is Resolution 67, 2020.
A resolution declaring the official intent and reasonable expectation of the City of Twinsburg on behalf of the State of Ohio to reimburse its general, sewer, water, and/or SCMR funds for the Dorridge Drive Improvement Project with the proceeds of tax-exempt debt from the State of Ohio.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 67, 2020. May I have a second? Mr. Scafidi seconds. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Resolution 67, 2020 passes 7-0. Finally this evening is Ordinance 68, 2020.
An ordinance forwarding a resident petition to the Summit County Board of Elections requesting that they place upon the City of Twinsburg ballot at the general election of November 3rd, 2020, a proposed amendment to Section 6.01 of the Charter of the City of Twinsburg regarding limitation on rate of taxation and declaring an emergency.
I'd like to make a motion to put ordinance 68, 2020 on its third and final reading and declare an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second. I'll yield.
Mrs. Walker seconds. Any discussion? Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
The emergency clause passes 7-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 68, 2020 as an emergency. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ordinance 68, 2020 passes 7-0 as an emergency. Next up this evening is unfinished business, new business, and miscellaneous. Mr. Fury.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mrs. Stoffer?
I have nothing.
Thank you. Mr. Barr?
Nothing for me, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Scafidi?
I have nothing, thanks.
Mrs. Walker?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. McFerrin?
I have lots. No.
Okay.
I also attended the Finance Committee meeting tonight, the capital improvements meeting, and the swearing in of the fire lieutenants. But I did want to say that I think I could speak for all of us that we had no idea about the Summit Metro Parks levy when we had our special meeting on July 28th. I am shocked that they could do something like this with 50 signatures, and I am committed to making sure all residents know when the meeting is, where we can go and speak for or against the annexation. So that's my commitment, and I hope that everyone will participate who feels they want to. So, and proper wearing of masks. I keep reviewing this because it's so important. But there is a great chart on the World Health Organization website, or I can send it to you if you want me to email it to you. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Nothing else this evening.
Mr. Maestros.
Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Buccigross. Mrs. Collins.
Nothing.
All right. All right, we have no absent members to excuse. Now I'd like to make a motion to enter into an executive session to discuss matters pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G123, personnel, land acquisition, and pending litigation. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fury seconds. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mr. Bellin?
Yes?
Mr. Fury?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Ms. McFerrin?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We will reconvene and report on the executive session.